You brush carefully. You may even use mouthwash. Everything feels clean, fresh, normal. But just a few hours later, the smell comes back. Or you wake up in the morning and notice your breath feels heavier than usual. Even though the night before, you followed the same routine you always do. For many people, this creates a quiet frustration. You start wondering if you missed something, if you didn't brush long enough, if you chose the wrong toothpaste. But in many cases, the smell isn't coming from your teeth at all. It often begins deeper inside the mouth, from bacteria that live on the tongue, from changes in saliva during sleep, from natural shifts in the body that become more noticeable over time. Sometimes the odor is temporary. Sometimes it repeats more often than expected. And that is usually the moment people start searching for answers. Today, we'll explore why breath can smell unpleasant even after brushing, what may actually be happening inside the mouth, and what simple adjustments may help improve breath more effectively over time. In most cases, bad breath does not begin with poor brushing. Research suggests that about 80 to 90% of persistent bad breath originates inside the mouth itself. More specifically, it comes from bacteria that naturally live in the oral environment. Certain types of bacteria feed on protein residues left behind after we eat. These proteins may come from tiny food particles, from dead cells that naturally shed inside the mouth, or from the thin biological layer that constantly forms on oral surfaces. As these bacteria break down protein, they release compounds known as volatile sulfur compounds, often called VSCs. These compounds are responsible for the characteristic odors many people recognize. Some may smell similar to rotten eggs. Others may resemble the scent of overcooked cabbage. Sometimes the odor is described as slightly sulfur-like or faintly metallic. An important detail many people don't realize is that these odor-producing bacteria are not mainly located on the teeth. They are most concentrated on the back surface of the tongue. This area contains thousands of tiny grooves and papillae, creating an ideal environment where microscopic debris can accumulate. Small particles can easily become trapped here, especially overnight, when saliva flow naturally decreases. Over time, bacteria gather inside these tiny structures, forming a thin microbial layer known as biofilm. Because this layer is not always removed during regular brushing, it can continue producing odor even when teeth appear perfectly clean. This explains why some people still notice bad breath, even after brushing carefully. Understanding where odor actually begins is often the first step toward improving it more effectively. Have you ever noticed bad breath, even right after brushing? Comment yes if this has happened to you. You may be surprised how common this actually is. Morning breath is something most people experience, at least occasionally, and in many cases, it is not a sign of a serious problem. During sleep, the body naturally shifts into a different rhythm. We stop eating, we stop drinking, we stop chewing. These small daily activities normally stimulate saliva production throughout the day. But at night, saliva flow drops to its lowest level. Saliva plays a very important role in maintaining a balanced oral environment. It helps rinse away food particles, neutralize acids produced by bacteria, and support a healthier balance of microorganisms inside the mouth. When saliva production decreases, the mouth becomes drier. Oxygen levels in the oral environment also become lower. This creates favorable conditions for anaerobic bacteria, the type of bacteria that thrive in low oxygen spaces. As these bacteria become more active overnight, they produce higher amounts of volatile sulfur compounds. These compounds gradually accumulate while we sleep. Because we are not swallowing as often, these odor molecules are not cleared as efficiently. By morning, the concentration of odor-producing compounds can be noticeably higher. This is why breath often smells stronger immediately after waking. For many people, morning breath is simply a reflection of how the body naturally functions during sleep. Understanding this process helps explain why the odor may feel more intense. Even when oral hygiene habits are consistent, dry mouth is one of the most overlooked factors behind persistent bad breath. Saliva does much more than simply keep the mouth comfortable. It plays an active role in protecting the oral environment. Saliva contains natural enzymes, proteins, and antibodies that help regulate bacterial growth. It also helps wash away microscopic food particles, dilute odor-producing compounds, and maintain balance inside the oral microbiome. When the mouth becomes dry, this natural protection becomes weaker. Bacteria can multiply more easily, biofilm can build up more quickly, and odor can become more noticeable. Dry mouth can develop for many different reasons. One of the most common causes is medication. More than 500 types of medications are known to reduce saliva production. These may include allergy medications, blood pressure medications, antidepressants, and many others commonly used as people get older. Certain medical conditions may also influence saliva production. For example, diabetes may affect fluid balance in the body. Autoimmune conditions such as Sjogren's syndrome may directly impact the salivary glands. Another contributing factor is mouth breathing during sleep. When airflow passes continuously through the mouth overnight, moisture evaporates more quickly. This may happen more often in people who experience nasal congestion, sinus issues, snoring, or sleep apnea. Over time, repeated dryness can create an environment where odor-producing bacteria thrive more easily. As a result, breath may feel heavier, especially in the morning. For many people, dry mouth is not immediately obvious, but it can quietly influence oral comfort, taste, and breath quality. Do you often wake up with a dry mouth or notice your breath feels worse in the morning? Share your experience below. Many people discover this is more connected than they expected. Not every source of bad breath comes directly from the teeth or the tongue. Sometimes, the cause may come from areas that are less obvious. One example is tonsil stones. These are small calcified particles that can become trapped in tiny pockets of the tonsils. Over time, layers of food debris, dead cells, and bacteria may accumulate inside these spaces. As bacteria break down this material, they can produce sulfur-containing compounds that create a strong and very characteristic odor. Many people are unaware they have tonsil stones because they are often hidden from view. Another possible factor involves digestion. Gastroesophageal reflux, often called acid reflux, may allow stomach contents to move upward into the esophagus. This may occur more easily when lying down, especially during sleep. In some cases, small amounts of acid or partially digested food may influence the smell of the breath, particularly in the morning. Food chemistry can also play an interesting role. Garlic is a well-known example. Garlic contains a compound called allicin. After digestion, allicin is converted into a molecule known as allyl methyl sulfide. This compound behaves differently from most odor molecules. Instead of remaining only in the mouth, it enters the bloodstream. From there, it travels throughout the body, including the lungs. Eventually, it is released through the breath during normal breathing. This explains why brushing, flossing, or mouthwash may reduce surface odor, but may not completely eliminate garlic breath. In this situation, the source of the smell is not only in the mouth, but also within normal metabolic processes. Understanding these less obvious causes can help explain why breath odor sometimes persists, even when oral hygiene habits are consistent. The encouraging news is that small adjustments may help improve breath more than many people expect. One of the most important steps is cleaning the tongue. Research suggests that a significant amount of odor-producing bacteria accumulate on the back surface of the tongue. Using a tongue scraper or gently brushing the tongue may help reduce the buildup of biofilm that contributes to volatile sulfur compounds. Brushing the teeth alone, while still essential, may not fully address this area. Flossing is another important habit. Tiny food particles can easily become trapped between teeth, especially in areas that toothbrush bristles cannot reach effectively. When these particles remain in place, bacteria may break them down, producing odor over time. Flossing helps reduce the amount of protein residue available for these bacteria. Certain mouth rinses may also provide additional support. Products containing zinc or CPC are often studied for their ability to help neutralize sulfur compounds. Zinc ions, for example, may bind to sulfur molecules, helping reduce their volatility and odor intensity. Alcohol-free formulas are often preferred because they are less likely to contribute to dryness inside the mouth. Another emerging area of interest involves oral probiotics. Specific strains of beneficial bacteria, such as Streptococcus salivarius, may help support a more balanced oral microbiome. Instead of simply reducing bacteria broadly, this approach focuses on encouraging a healthier microbial environment. Simple lifestyle habits may also make a difference. Staying well hydrated helps support normal saliva production. Breathing through the nose, when possible, helps reduce overnight dryness. Maintaining comfortable humidity in the sleeping environment may also support oral comfort. Over time, these small supportive habits may help create conditions that are less favorable for odor-producing bacteria. Consistency often matters more than intensity when supporting long-term breath freshness. Oral health does not only influence breath, it may also reflect broader changes happening in the body. Research increasingly suggests that gum health may be connected to overall health patterns, including cardiovascular health. Conditions such as periodontal inflammation have been associated with higher levels of systemic inflammation in some studies. The mouth contains a complex community of bacteria, often called the oral microbiome. When this environment becomes unbalanced, certain bacteria may trigger inflammatory responses that extend beyond the oral cavity. Over time, chronic inflammation may place additional stress on the body's regulatory systems. This connection does not mean that oral bacteria directly cause heart conditions, but it highlights how closely different systems of the body interact with each other. The mouth is not separate from the rest of the body. It is part of the same biological network. As we grow older, natural changes in saliva production, immune response, and tissue repair may gradually influence oral conditions. Because of this, maintaining a stable and balanced oral environment becomes increasingly valuable over time. Simple daily habits that support oral comfort may also contribute to a stronger foundation for overall well-being. Bad breath is not always a serious problem, but it can sometimes be a gentle signal that the oral environment is changing. In many cases, the cause is not simply hygiene, but a combination of bacteria, saliva balance, sleep patterns, and everyday habits. When we understand where the odor may actually begin, it becomes easier to choose solutions that support the mouth more effectively. Sometimes, small adjustments can make a noticeable difference over time. Cleaning the tongue, staying hydrated, supporting a balanced oral environment. These simple habits may help reduce the conditions that allow odor to persist, rather than masking the smell. Understanding the cause often leads to more lasting improvement. If this video helped you better understand what may be causing bad breath, consider subscribing for more science-based, healthy aging insights. And if you know someone who may be dealing with this quietly, sharing this video may help them feel more confident. This content is for educational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice.